been separated from them. They lived with, say, a distant cousin or a distant aunt or uncle. Some challenge began to happen. They began to have trouble in school. They may have been left the home. There may have been issues that happen very often in immigrant communities where the teacher may send a note home saying that we want, the child is missing class, and the child may interpret the note very differently and say, I got an A today. And so we know there has to be those deeper bonds. These aren't easy issues. But I can tell you this. I speak to every ninth grade in Minneapolis schools, and I've done that for the past 5 years. And I talk to them about their careers. And I ask all the kids in the school what they're going to do when they get older, and they raise their hand and tell me. And out of any group in the Minneapolis schools, far and away the ones with the highest aspirations for their future are the Somali kids. This is a very, very good thing because they expect to succeed and they expect to be working hard. And I see hundreds of stories. And if you want to see a great example of what's going right with our Somali young people, at the end of this summer will be the graduation from Step Up. It's our summer job program, and I mentioned hundreds of Somali kids are there. And I just get a lump in my throat every year because you see all the top executives from the city coming up, and they've hired these kids for the summer, and parents will come in, many of whom have never worked in an office building like their kids are now working, many of whom don't speak English, and they see the chief executive of U.S. Bank standing with their child. They see the mayor standing with Kafi Amin, who interned in my office, and they see the success and the path. And we need to be focused on the tough places, but we can't lose track of the fact of how much success is taking place. And the community, all the community, not just Somalis, all of us should feel so proud of what's happening here.
You want to add something?
I just want to say I think the mayor is absolutely right. I mean, I think that the mayor has done a phenomenal job at inclusion and incorporation of all talent from everywhere. You never know where the lightning is going to strike. I mean, the great answers to the problems facing our society are in the minds of our Somali youth like they are in the minds of all of our youth. And the only way you reach that is that you have to reach out to those young people. So I commend the mayor for that. I think we're very lucky to have that kind of leadership. That Step Up program is great. Not only that one, the choice is yours. And a lot of different things that you're doing.
And
to
the
make
Power
sure
of You, where we're getting kids
you.
into college,
Well, we'll jump another topic as your congressman. You're with us today for federal aspects. So, as mayor, we're talking about it. So,
they're all related.
We are related. Yep. Oh, right. Okay. Let me ask you this question: immigration issue.
Oh yeah.
Immigration issue in Arizona. State of Arizona passed a controversial immigration law. That means if we interpret that law enforcement to question everybody or everyone that they suspect of being illegal immigrant in the country, in the United States. So is there a similar law that which works here in Minnesota as a member of Congress, sitting, or I think you're one of the lowest issue and legislation you voted for your constituency. You know, you voted for one of them. So Immigration Act.
Yeah, I am a proponent, and I am in favor of comprehensive immigration reform. I think our system is broken. I think the legalization so that people can come out of the shadows. I also think that border issues are important, but you can't really enforce the border on the border. You have to do that at the point of employment. And so I think we should have some employment verification systems. And I also think we need to look at our trade and agricultural policy, which undermines, growers in other countries. And if we're dumping cheap corn in Mexico, believe me, the people at that farm are going to be coming north, and that's just the way it is. So the thing is that I believe that this Arizona law is a bad thing. I think it's constitutionally offensive, but I really don't blame Arizona, and the reason why is because I think the Congress has failed. We have not passed a comprehensive immigration reform bill, and therefore different states are doing different things. But if we were to address this issue, it would not be nearly as bad. So in my opinion, the Congress has got to step forward. In the meantime, we cannot pass laws which open the door for racial profiling. It's got to step forward. In the meantime, we cannot pass laws which open the door for racial profiling. It's a mistake.
It's a mistake.
But I say this again, in the city of Minneapolis, we've been very proud that we don't ask our police officers to become immigration and customs enforcement agents.
Right.
We have the police to do policing, and the ICE people, they do their job, but we don't try to mix them up because we don't, quite frankly, have the resources to do that, and we don't want anyone who may be out of status but who was a victim of a crime to not come forward because of that. So that's another good thing in Minneapolis that we're doing, even in the area of immigration.
Wow.
Can I say I strongly
Go
agree
ahead, Mayor.
with Congressman
Go ahead.
Ellison's, the way he approaches immigration and the need to have the Congress doing this. And I want to continue the commitment that we are not going to do anything in Minneapolis that's like the Arizona law, which I strongly oppose. Remember those points I was making a couple minutes back about the dialogue we're having with the community? We do this with many different immigrant communities. You can't do that if your police are also expected to do immigration work. We have had, I was in one incident very early in my term that explained this to me. We explained to families that our police were not immigration officials, come to us for help no matter what. And this family came forward and reported some horrible physical abuse in their family that they were afraid to report because they thought it would jeopardize their legal immigration status. That really illustrated to me how important it is to keep the police and immigration separate. I've had very strong disagreements with the people who lead the ICE group federally because they have their officials have the word police on the back of their jerseys. Well, that's very confusing to people. They're not police. They work for ICE. And if our police find out issues involving immigration that involve things that are illegal, they need to report that. But they should not begin, when some vulnerable person comes to our police, the first question should be, where's your green card? No, that's wrong. The first question should be, how do I help? Because I'm a police officer and I am here to protect and serve you.
That's right.
And what's happening in Arizona, and I understand how people are frustrated with, I think what the congressman says is a broken system, and I agree. But this is a country founded on the values of the Statue of Liberty, and we will not turn our back on that because of that. And I'm deeply resolved on that. And we've taken a lot of criticism about that, and I get criticized about that all the time for what Minneapolis is doing, and I could frankly care less. Minneapolis is doing the right thing.
You're right. That's right.
You know.
Are you still watching Regional Somali TV? We're having a very wonderful interview, both the congressman and also our wonderful mayor. To follow your question, you have another question I'll ask you, as we are expecting. All right. You talked about, Mayor, about the police, Somali police. We happen to see a lot of Somalis when we go, not a lot, but you said 2 Somali police hired. And we happen to see uniformed Somali-speaking policemen. We're really proud of that as a Somali, and we really appreciate it as a mayor. Thank you very much, the job you have done in the community. Are there any plans that you hire more police?
Oh, absolutely. In fact, one of the single biggest disappointments of my time as mayor is that we've tried to diversify the police department. At the same time, there have been massive cuts from the state. What it's meant is that we really insisted that our new recruit classes be very diverse, and our last class was 50% people of color, and it had representation from all the different parts of the community. And then right when we got the class ready to hire, we had a huge cut from the state and couldn't move forward on it. Now, part of the reason we could hire some of those officers was because these federal stimulus dollars came in, but they're only for a couple of years. And so it's an enormous frustration for me. It's also a problem because the way hiring works, the last people hired are the ones who, by the way hiring works in the public sector, are the first ones who have to go.
It's called seniority.
Yeah, and so this is a huge frustration to me. And my job this summer is to figure out any way humanly possible to keep dollars in our police department in spite of these huge cuts from the state. I'm hoping a new governor will understand this issue better. Because we need to first off have enough police officers on the street so that they can do the work of not just running from police call to police call, but stopping and listening and talking to our community. That takes numbers. The second thing is we simply have to diversify more. Whenever I go out to those high schools, I always say to kids of color, but especially immigrant kids, we need you to be a police officer. So that's good. So now we can get them in the pipeline. But the problem is, I'm deeply frustrated by this. I can say this, though, that we continue to look for other ways to hire Somalis throughout the organization. We've now just reorganized a good part of the middle part of our organization to have a Department of Community Engagement. And these are outreach workers who work with all the different communities of the city. And there's a Somali outreach worker there, but the person who supervises the whole team is also a Somali. So Somalis should be doing work not just about Somalis, but also about all work. Wow. And I think one of the single biggest issues that I find, whenever I meet Somalis, I try very hard to ask, what were you doing in Somalia? And so often we have a person driving a cab who was a very high-level attorney, a person working in a parking ramp who was a doctor. We have so much talent and training here. And that's why I've gotten very focused with groups like the African Development Corporation on entrepreneurship. So we worked with, as you know, obviously, with people of the Islamic faith, a traditional business loan can't be taken. So we've worked with them to do new types of loans. And so there are 38 small businesses in the city run by Somalis that got a business loan only because we understood the culture. So we'll keep working on that.
Great. This question is Mr. Congressman Keith Ellison. I will ask you about, as your federal aspects. We talked about immigration. We talked about health. Now let's talk about economy recovery and job creation.
Right.
What are your plans to create more jobs? Do you think we're better off?
Well, look, we have an unemployment rate nationally hovering around 10%, and in the state of Minnesota around 7.2, 7.1%, way too high. And of course, that's the average. So what that means is that some people are